so confusing. Hi guys. I'm trying super hard to understand what I'm even doing, and it looks like I did something wrong because I want to live stream, but I need a live stream from a different program. So I'm going to stop this stream, ignore it, and I will be right back. Delete. Delete. Events. Stream now. Okay, I feel like this is really confusing. So if you guys can hear me, I'm so sorry. I'm being really annoying because I don't understand, like, how this is working. Okay, that's not what I want. Alice in Wonderland. Go on. Let's see. So it's like super hard to like push all these updates and stuff and have shit work. So again, I'm really, really sorry. Give me 1 second to just figure it out. And it looks like it's working. I'm like updating Facebook. I'm doing this all by myself. It's super annoying. I'm so sorry. I'm like probably irritating the bejesus out of you guys. Okay, I feel like I'm ready. And that is not the right thing. Okay, that goes up there. Yay! Hello. Okay. Hi. So I am switching the way that I'm going to be showing you guys the book, because I found it to be just super confusing and difficult for me to go through the editor online, and I realized I could just show you guys the PDF, which is the raw version of what I got from Blurb. So just a quick little thing about the book and me. My name is Katya Oloy. I'm professionally known as Katya or Ekaterina. I wrote a book called Anxiety in Wonderland. I also did a BuzzFeed article about this about 2 years ago. That really just stemmed from me sharing my experience of having anxiety and depression through art. And it's my bias that I am incredibly fortunate that I can express myself in a way that a lot of people may not necessarily have available to them. I'm fortunate enough to be able to draw and sort of put my demons on paper and express myself that way. And not everyone is as lucky. So my hope is with this book that I can help build awareness by sharing my journey, by sharing my experience and my story, that maybe I could help somebody else out there. So yeah, let's get into it. I left off, I believe, on page 20. We're about to find out though. 20? Yeah, okay. Also, go away. My book is currently available on Kindle for free. Free 99. Normally the book is $3.50 online for Kindle, and you can get it for free right now, just today. Today's the 13th of 12th of September, and it'll be going on until midnight tonight. So please check it out. If you do download it, please leave a review. That would mean a lot to me. Okay, now for reals, we are starting chapter 1. So this drawing is of the Red Queen, who is my anxiety, kind of on my back, and she just wears me down. She's a huge bummer, and yeah, I thought it was just a good way to start chapter 1. So like I said, chapter 1 is called Anxiety. This is one of the first 2 or 3 drawings I've ever done about my anxiety. I love Alice in Wonderland. Anyone that's kind of known me knows that it's a story that's near and dear to my heart. The Red Queen seemed like a good villain, I guess you could say, embodiment of my anxiety. In the film, she doesn't even let Alice get a word in edgewise, and she's like bossing her around and telling her what to do, like, have your back straight, you know, like, always, you know, speak with your mouth open, and just all of this inane nonsense that really has nothing to do with what Alice is trying to communicate. And that really resonated to me because my experience with my mother is a lot like that. And to put it simply, this is a caricature of my mom, and it's like a very deformed, grotesque voice and being that's kind of evolved from the very challenging relationship I've had with my mom my whole life. I chose to make her hair purple, and you'll notice there's a little bit of pink in there. I wanted to make the purple mixing the pink and the blue together, which I thought was really interesting because I feel like 2 colors that embody me, and consistently throughout the book, 2 colors that I use to describe me are blue and pink in this world. Occasionally yellow for my hair, but almost always it's blue and pink. And so I thought, you know, sort of that masculine and feminine color, myself having both a very masculine and a very feminine side, kind of smashed together makes this purple of this monster that lives in my head. That is essentially me. So it just felt right to create this version of purple from that. Another reason why I wanted to make purple is my mom wears purple a lot. I actually really hate the color purple. It's really interesting how we as humans develop relationships with colors. In Eastern cultures, we wear white at funerals. In Western cultures, we wear black. In European royalty, purple was a color of being rich, nobility, being royal, and in the East, it was yellow. In other places, it's going to be a different color. And, you know, the color green, for me personally, is kind of like this color of happiness and hope. And that probably stems from the fact that I love plants and I love green things. So the fact that the Red Queen is red, which is the opposite of my happy color, and she is black and white. She's dark colors. She's got these big over lipsticked lips. Yeah, this is the face. The more I look at it, the more triggering it is, because it really, this is what my anxiety looks like and feels like. It's just this matriarchal unpleasantness in my head. Let's move on. So the Queen is the embodiment of my anxiety. She is my torturer. She is loud, critical, impatient, contradictory, chaotic, panicked, manipulative, prone to lying, and relentless. She echoes much of what has hurt me in the past over and over, forcing me to relive the pain anew whenever I'm triggered. And I think anybody with anxiety can relate to this. And there's a whole list of reasons, both psychologically and chemically, why our triggers affect us the way that they do. To put it simply, whenever you're triggered, you're basically reliving a trauma from the past. And I know that that's a huge part of sort of our vernacular now, our meme culture, to say, oh my God, I'm triggered. But when you really are triggered, you kind of go into fight, flight, and freeze mode. And if you really did go through something traumatic, and this is more going into PTSD, when you go through a certain level of trauma, there's a part of your brain called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is responsible for flagging things that happen to you as, like, mark as red. Like, this is a thing that happened to me. This is in my past. Or this thing is happening now, and then later when something similar happens, I could look back to it and say, oh, this has happened in the past. If your hippocampus is shut down, you basically are not flagging those memories in that trauma as red, as have happened. And so what happens is you're flooded with your brain going, okay, does anybody know anything about car crashes? And all of your neurons are going, oh yeah, car crashes hurt. Car crashes are bad. Pain, smoke, the smell of smoke, hyperventilation. And so all of your neurons, all of this information in your brain is being sent to you in the middle of this car accident or seeing a car accident. And anything that should have been marked as red, as like, this is something that's happened in my past, that's getting sent to you, but it's not being sent to you as, hey, remember when you were 18 and you were with your friends and you got into a car accident and it was really scary? Yeah, that happened, and that was pretty awful. And yeah, I remember I got hit and my friends were freaking out and I was screaming and I didn't have my shoes, and that was pretty bad, and I that sucked. And then you can kind of process it. If you don't have those sort of markers, you basically relive it as if it's happening again. And so my anxiety is very much the same way. If I have, I have a nice hot spot right here. What is going on? If I get triggered, it's like reliving these horrible thoughts or these horrible things that have been said to me in my past, and it sucks, and it's sometimes unbearable. And the queen is very much the controller of all of that. And then you can see a character that is going to come up later in the book, which is the cat. And the cat is basically my safety mechanism. It's like my safety net, my safety bubble, my safety helmet. And I often, if I'm triggered, I shut down and I just disconnect, and I'm like, I'm done. And I don't feel anything and I don't see anything because I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so triggered. I'm so terrified that I'm like, oh, I know what this is. Bye. And then I'm gone. But more on that later. This is more just about the queen. And just this sort of abusive relationship I have with the queen in my head. Everything's about her. Everything's about my anxiety. Everything's about my fears. Everything's about my triggers. And this one thing that could happen sort of maybe takes over everything else. And it doesn't even allow me, like, to be injured. And I'm, like, hating on myself. And I'm like, oh, well, you know what? You may have a sprained ankle, but at least you don't have 2 sprained ankles. And you know what? If you're not careful, you'll have 2 sprained ankles the next time. And it's like compounding all this misery and suffering and like suffocating my life force by just all of these horrible, anxious, mean thoughts that knock around in my head. Wow, I really didn't realize what I was getting myself into when I decided to go through the book page by page. And again, this book is my experience of my life. As I mentioned, my mom and I had a really difficult relationship. There are a lot of times that my mom would drink in high school, and I'd come home and the house would be destroyed because she was upset about something. I don't know what it would even be. And alcohol was a huge, constant issue in my family. There's an obligatory Russian joke in here. We're Russian. I'm an immigrant. I'm trying to think how to navigate this page without coming off as accusatory. Maybe I'll shift it into a different direction. Alcohol is a really good way to kind of relax you. I guess that's why most people drink, right? Like, they get anxious, so they drink. And it's been my experience that alcohol doesn't really do anything good for anybody. And I think we should just leave it at that. This drawing is my mom, my stepdad, and my dad. And it's kind of like all these people bearing witness to sort of my misery and my suffering, and nobody really doing much to help me. And again, like, this is my experience. I'm not intending to put anybody on blast. I'm not intending, like, it's not my hope or intention to ridicule anybody or make anybody feel uncomfortable or anything like that. Oh my god, the hot spot on my chest is like out of control. I need to cover that with something. But yeah, I'm not trying to say that I wasn't loved or that I was abused or that I lived with horrible people my whole life. All of my parents did the best that they could, and for the most part, they are all wonderful, amazing, kind creatures. And there were lots of times where they couldn't be there for me when I really needed it. And I don't know if anybody else out there knows what that feels like. But again, that was my experience, that I just suffered on my own, and the sort of way that I was treated, which is, I think, a cultural thing, is just, stop crying. Or I'd get laughed at and be told that the thing that I'm upset about is, like, not a big deal. And that just made it worse. If somebody's crying or scared or angry, it would be my hope that that person would be surrounded by people that are curious about that pain, and don't dismiss it or minimize it just because they're children or because their life experience is different. I would have definitely liked to have been told that it's okay to be scared and that it's okay to cry. And yeah, I feel like I need to do something about this hotspot, and I also want to move on to this page. I'm trying to decide. Oh, that maybe works a little bit better. Okay, I'll sit back here to avoid the hotspot. Okay. So this page. So I mentioned there were 3 drawings that I did that were the beginning of these drawings of the Queen. This is the third of the 3, and I don't know which one of these was. Look, the hotspot is, like, now in my hand. It's kind of magical. Wow, looks like magic! Sorry, hold on. I know that this is, like, a really serious thing. Hold on. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm really distracted. Okay, um, I was saying there's 3 pages. There's 3 drawings that I had done of the Red Queen, and this is one of the 3. I really don't remember which one was which and what order. And this again, I think is more a reflection of my relationship with my mom and sort of the pressure that I had to love her unconditionally. She's never wrong. She's amazing and perfect, and she's an amazing human being. Never say anything wrong about her, and just sort of like shut up and deal with it that I dealt with. And it was always this crying, lonely, scared, hurt, wanting to be loved, desperate person, or it was this angry, manipulative, mean, selfish person. And Mother's Day 2 years ago, actually, we stopped talking, roughly around that time. And it was because I had done a Facebook Live video, and I said, I don't want to sit here and talk about all of the bad things that happened. I want to talk about what I wish was different. Because as I've gotten older and I've realized that the relationship I had with my mom wasn't everybody else's normalcy, at first I was really angry about that. And then it quickly turned to ridicule, like, whatever, like, you need your mom, like, you must obviously be a little baby. And then as I got older, I realized, wow, I'm really jealous that people can go to their mom and they can go to them and be scared or be sad or be angry. They can go to their mom and be like, I'm having a great day, or I'm really loving my new job, and their mom has nothing but nice things to say. And they're not pumped full of fear and paranoia. And even my friends who had really strict moms, like really strict moms, I was so jealous of that. It was like very much like Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye. It was like sneaking out of his house and he's thinking, I wish somebody would wake up and catch me sneaking out. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like I wish I had a strict parent that loved me in that way, that even though they were really strict, that they supported me when I was in a really dark place, and they didn't laugh at me when I cried or tell me not to cry anymore. So yeah, I'm realizing that when I realized this a while ago, a lot of my anxiety and a lot of the way that I treat myself when I'm anxious is just a product of what I was taught. And what was taught to me was probably taught to my parents and their grandparents. And it's just a culture of people not knowing how to be there for other people. That doesn't make them bad people. It just means they didn't have the privilege to have what they needed. And that's okay. I think what it really comes down to is, what do you do with that? And I like to think that in the past, especially the past 6 years since I started therapy, that I really tried to break that culture of judgment and really just try to build empathy and compassion. Even if I think somebody's fears are stupid and lame, or if they're feeling really sad about something, I'll be honest and say, I don't relate, I don't understand, but I can see that this sucks for you. And then from that, it's like I could do my best to sympathize and empathize, or maybe I'm not the right person to come to with this, and that's okay. Because I think everybody deserves empathy and support, and if somebody doesn't empathize or support you, um, find somebody that does. It doesn't have to be your parents. I was really lucky that my dad and I had a really, really close relationship, and as I got older, I would lean on him more often. My stepdad was that way for a while for me, up until my mom and my stepdad stopped talking to me. My stepmom, super amazing, lovely human being. I can always go to her. I can go to my mother-in-law. I can go to my mentors, my bosses, my good friends. I built a whole culture of love around me because I didn't have that growing up. So this, what you guys are looking at, this is all that I knew for a really long time. And I chose to not have to live that anymore. And oh my God, it was really hard, but I'm so much happier and healthier for it. And to anyone out there that like can relate or understand, like, man, it sucks, right? Like, especially being anxious, you don't talk about these things and you don't share these things, and especially Russian culture, people don't talk about the nasty things because they don't want people to judge you, and so it's like this like system that like protects shittiness. I don't know if I could say that, but anyway, I'm gonna move on to the next page because I'm hoping I will cry less. Okay, we'll do this page, which is what I just started to talk about. So this is a great segue. Really didn't want to have to get into it, but so I mentioned my mom would drink, and to this day she claims that this never happened, and I am like, why would I make this up? So whatever, you guys can make of this story whatever you want, but this is my experience of it. I came home and two of my friends were with me. I think my boyfriend at the time was with me, and then another friend of mine, two guys. And my mom was drunk, and she and I just started arguing. I don't remember what it was about, and she got so mad at me. I remember her favorite thing to drink was screwdrivers. She got so mad at me, she threw a chair at me, and my two friends stepped in front of me, and I don't remember whether they got hit by the chair or not, but I basically just took off and I bolted from my room, and I just laid in my bed and I just started to cry. And now that I think about it, I think that's one of the first times I started to dig my nails into my skin. And I, to this day, still don't know why I do that. And even now, I feel like talking about this is going to totally come back to haunt me, and it's just going to create drama in my life. But there's this culture around protecting people that are not good to you, and it's just because they're your family, or they're your parent. And it's total bullshit. And all that does is that it protects the person that benefits from that sort of thing. You know, there's this sort of idea of, well, we don't talk about these things because we don't want people judging us. And it's like, Well, of course people are gonna judge you because you were drunk and you threw something at me. Your chair. If you don't want people to judge you, don't be throwing chairs at people. It's really simple. And how does that benefit me to not talk about it and to not say anything and to not air it afterwards? How does it benefit anybody to just pretend like it didn't happen? Or when you confront somebody and you say, you did this to me, and then they say, well, I don't remember, are you supposed to just pretend like it didn't happen? I don't get it. And I don't know if maybe that was why it took so long for me to talk about my anxiety and finally admit that I was crumbling under this crushing force of hatred and doubt and fear and hot spots, sorry. And I just thought it was stress for so long, and I wouldn't even admit that it was stress. And even at work when I'm like freaking out and all I need is to just talk to somebody and be like, I'm freaking out because I don't think I know what I'm doing. To show any sort of human weakness or flaw was terrifying because it was like, well, then people are going to judge you. And it's like, the exact opposite thing has happened to me in these past couple of years, especially since I started talking about my anxiety. The more I talked about it and opened up, people have been so awesome to me. Or admitting that I didn't know something, or that I couldn't do something well. The people worth having in my life would respond to that with curiosity. They respond to it with compassion. I'd be at a party and I'd be like, I actually don't drink alcohol. And they would be like, oh, why? And when you say you don't drink alcohol, most people are going to assume like you have an alcohol problem. And I'd be like, no, it's not. It's a choice that I made because I'm on an SSRI, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which I will talk about later in the book. And it's for my anxiety and my depression. And alcohol is a depressant. And if you have depression, you're basically just like compounding on top of this like depression that you already have. It doesn't make it, like mathematically, makes no sense. So I just don't drink. And then people always react literally like one of three ways. The majority of people are like, dude, my cousin has really bad anxiety. Or, my wife has really bad anxiety. Or, and this is becoming like so common, a lot of people are like, dude, I have anxiety too. Like it's becoming this like great like how's the weather line at parties. It's like everybody has anxiety. So that's really cool. A majority of people have been touched by it directly. Some people don't know anything about it. They don't have any friends, no family members that they're aware of. And they're just like, what does that mean to you? Like, what, are you okay? Like, are you, like, multiple personality disorder? Excuse me, dissociative identity disorder? Like, what is that? And I'm like, no. I just panic for no reason a lot. And that is my anxiety. And they're like, oh man, that sucks. And I'm like, yeah, it totally sucks. And they're like, huh. Well, it's really cool that you're talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. And then we'll like talk about something else. And then maybe they'll come back to it. And then a very small minority of people, in my experience, will be like, like, like some people just, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to react. And I don't know if that person's coming from a place of don't ask, don't tell. Like, we don't talk about these sorts of things. Or they feel uncomfortable. Or maybe I don't know, maybe they have anxiety and they don't want to talk about it, or they're totally triggered and they need to go hide because they have anxiety, which I've totally done before. I don't know why people will respond in that third category, but I have never so far had somebody judge me for it. I've never had somebody show pity or like disdain or like think I'm crazy. And that was my biggest fear for a very, very long time. And I think that talking about, you know, why do we keep these secrets? You're not doing anybody any favors by hiding this. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping the people around you, because the people around you want to love you and they want to help. And by me being honest about my anxiety, I've made a lot of friends. And I've been connecting with people in ways I would never have otherwise, because they can relate to me on this one thing. And then we relate on other stuff, and that's pretty cool. Or people message me at 2 a.m. and they're like, I'm having a panic attack. Can you please help me? And I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to help you. And you wouldn't have that ability to be there and to love people through it if they don't know. And on a wider level, I strongly believe that we as a society should be talking about these things. We should be educating people, because I really needed a therapist when I was a kid. For a whole bunch of reasons. Because I had anxiety, because of my parents' divorce, because I went to a different school every freaking year of my life for like a really long time. Because I didn't have any friends, because I gave up on having friends, because I missed my dad, because I felt like I didn't belong, because I had a horrible relationship with my mom. And I didn't know to ask for those things. I didn't know that I needed help, because I didn't know that was even a thing. Because all you know is your normalcy. And my normalcy was a bunch of bad stuff happens to you and you shut up about it and you keep going. Which is great, because I'm really good at shutting up and going, but at the cost of my sanity and my mental, physical, and emotional strength. So, and I know I keep coming back to this, but that's why this book is so important to me. I really want to break that cycle of hiding and just not talking about these things. I don't think it helps anybody. The only thing it helps is the bad guy. It only helps the monsters to say nothing. So yeah, I don't know how many more pages of this chapter I have. Apparently a lot more. Hold on, should we do the hotspot trick again? Cheer myself up. Oh, the hotspot's mostly gone. Okay, I'm done. It didn't really help. So again, these are earlier drawings that I had done, and this is just how overwhelming my anxiety is. It's the loudest voice in the room. It's awful. It's abusive. Sorry, I keep getting messages and I'm just like, who's messaging me? Please stop. It's omnipotent. I hear this voice in everything I do and everything I say. I hear my anxiety when I'm talking to other people that are having anxiety. And I'm like, ew, I don't want to perpetrate that, and I don't want to continue to be this horrible monster that's like adding to the suffering of this person. So yeah, shark teeth. Shark teeth were very important in this drawing. This is sort of my young childhood. I don't have a whole lot of memories of my parents getting along, of us having this big happy family thing. A lot of my memories are of people fighting a lot and a glass table being broken and a lot of crying, a lot of frustration, and I wish that I had other memories, but I don't. All I can do is just look back on that and say that happened. And when I have kids, I don't want to put them through that if I could help it. Because it kind of sucks. Sometimes the voice of my anxiety is very small. So 2 pages ago, she was really big, right? She's the loudest, craziest thing in the room. Sometimes she's just like this tiny little buzzing in my ear. And this is mostly, I'm gonna go back here because I'm not enjoying the hot spot at all. I find that this happens the most, oh my god. Magic, magic. I find that this, I feel like I don't know what to do with this hotspot. I feel like I should be like up here now because it's like sort of behind me. One of the few things that I have a lot of confidence in is my draftsmanship. My whole life, I've been one of the strongest drafts people I know. And when I say draftsperson because I hate the term artist. This is my bias. I think artists get a bad rap, and there's this sort of idea of like, I'm an artist, I'm a purveyor of culture, and I just do whatever I want. And I'm a creative professional. I have to get up early in the morning. I have to hustle. I have to do work for somebody else. Even if I disagree with their ideas, even if they don't have the greatest ideas, I still do it, and I do the best job I can do because that's what you do as a creative professional. You don't get to pick and choose the projects that you work on, especially if you're working at a company where you have a whole lot of projects coming in and you're maybe on a project for a day or two. That project, you do the best that you can. And maybe one of the projects that I worked on was Top Gun, which I actually really enjoyed working on. And somebody on my team was like, oh, I haven't seen the movie. And I'm like, it's your job to watch the movie. And they go, well, it's not my thing. And I'm like, I don't care if it's not your thing. Your job and your responsibility as a creative professional is to sit down, watch the movie, and do what's expected out of you. And we don't have the flexibility or like the ability to kind of like be in a coffee shop all day and then do 2 paintings a month. Like, we're doing overtime every day, we're underpaid, and we're hauling ass. And that is like the one thing in life I know I am amazing at. I will do everything in my power to make something as beautiful and as resonant as possible. And maybe that's why I love to draw and why I love my job so much. It's because it's the only place where I don't have to hear my anxiety. Anywhere else in the world, even if I'm walking down the corridor of my job, I start to get like little buzzings of my anxiety. And it's like always imposter syndrome. Thankfully, it's gotten better over the years, but I promise you, even the most talented artists out there, even the most talented people in the world, a lot of them have told me they have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, girl, me too. We all do. And the Queen is definitely the voice of my imposter syndrome. And it's always like, you're a fraud, you are too lazy, everybody knows it, they just tolerate you. And it just makes me so insecure that I end up sabotaging myself. And like, it creates this self-fulfilling prophecy of like, nobody here likes you. And then I'm like, nobody here likes me. And then people pick up on that. And then people don't like you because you don't trust them. Why would somebody like somebody that doesn't trust them? Right? So my anxiety has been a huge problem when it's come to connecting with people and being able to take criticism, because she's like always there being like, you are the worst, you are awful. And it's like, I'm not, and I know I'm not. And the few hours a day that I can get away from that voice is like the best. So anybody out there that can kind of relate, you're the best. It's just your voice that's telling you you're not. And even if you're not the best, you're the best you can be today. And that is really awesome, because that's a better you than yesterday and the better you than a month ago. I'm a much better artist today than I was 6 months ago. I'm a much better artist than I was when I graduated college. It's a work in progress. And don't compare yourself against the you that you want to be tomorrow or the you that you think you should be, because that you doesn't exist. You should focus on the you of today and not give any like attention to like this voice in your head that tells you you suck. Because I lived with that, and it doesn't do anything for you. How many more pages of this do I have? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've got like 5 more pages. Sweet. So more about this sort of voice of insecurity. And again, I think this is really stemming from very, very good intentions. My parents didn't want me to get fat. We live in America, which is, obesity is a growing problem. Actually, BMI-wise, I am overweight. So I'm working really, really hard to get back down to a normal BMI. I'm not interested in starting an argument with people about like whether I should and should not lose weight. Like, it's something I want to do. I'm doing it because I actually really enjoy running and working out, and I'm losing weight, and that's awesome. And I don't intend to go below a certain weight, and talk to my doctor about it. Like, please don't worry about any of that as I talk about this subject. But my parents, for the longest time, every time they'd see me, it'd be like, you lost weight. You look like you've gained weight. You look like you've lost weight. You're eating too much. You're going to get fat. And it's like, I get it. They're coming from a place. Sorry. The long tea is my favorite. They're coming from a place where obesity does run on one side of my family. That is a real fear. That is just like having heart disease or cancer running in your family. So I totally 5,000% am appreciative that my parents were very concerned, even though there were probably better ways to express that concern and encourage me to eat better. That pressure to be skinnier or whatever it is that they wanted me to be turned into this voice that basically wouldn't let me enjoy anything that I ate. I would eat a cake, and oh my God, I love cake. It makes me so happy. I love a really nice, beautiful little pastry with a nice cup of tea. Like, I'm not talking about like a big old thing of cake, like whatever that you would get, like the big sheet cakes at Mons. No, I'm talking about like a nice, beautiful, delicate souffle. Like, oh, I love cake. I love pastry. And like, I would not be able to enjoy it because my anxiety will be like, you know, if you eat this piece of cake, you're going to be fat and you're going to be ugly and no one's going to love you and nobody's going to want you, and then you're going to get fat and you're going to get diabetes, you're going to have heart disease, and you're going to die early just because you wanted to have this piece of cake. I hope you're happy. Or when I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not eating for the rest of the day. And by 6 o'clock, I'd be like, I'm starving. So I end up eating a bunch of stuff. And if I had just been like, oh, I really want to manage my weight, here's sort of the amount of calories I can have a day, here, which is what I'm doing now. Like, I'm monitoring my macros. I'm monitoring what I'm eating. I'm really into egg whites. They're really, really good. But that's what I should have been taught. I should have been taught, like, hey, like, we're concerned about your health, especially as you get older, that, like, you're gonna have this genetic problem that, like, you can't do anything about, and it's gonna get harder when you get older. So you really want to be sure that you have healthy eating habits now so that you're equipped for the future. Then I would not have developed this sort of constant, I'm fat, I'm getting too fat, I can't eat anything sort of issue. And it was just this constant sort of pressure on how I looked. I just always would be like commented on about like how pretty I was, or how somebody liked my hair like this or like that. And like, there's already so much pressure to be a certain way, especially living in California, especially living in Los Angeles. Like, you walk down the street and it's really easy to like feel down on yourself because there's a lot of very beautiful people that live here, because hello, there's a lot of actors and models that like their whole life they're professionally made to look that way. That's already pressure within itself. And I'm coming home and the first thing you say to me isn't, how is your day? It's, I think you're getting fat, or you have dirt under your fingernails, or whatever. Stupid. And then I end up like treating myself like that, and I can't even like enjoy the smallest little birthday cake because I think I'm gonna get fat from this one slice of cake. I hate myself for that. And I hate that I just said that. I hate that I just said that I hate myself for it, because I actually don't hate myself. I hate that my anxiety is like that. And I'm really trying to make it different. Move on. So these next two paintings are kind of the Queen's domain. Water is a reoccurring thing in my nightmares, and we're going to cover that in a little bit. But the Queen basically lives in this dark, gloomy place, and it's always raining, and it's always sad. There's not a whole lot to be happy for or happy about. And I felt like this was a pretty good segue into sort of the nightmares I've had my whole life. I remember being 5 years old. This is my earliest two memories in my entire life. Had to have been younger than 5, maybe 4. We immigrated when I was about 2 years old. And my very first memory of my life is when we were already in America, and I remember crying myself to sleep because I wanted my grandpa. My second earliest memory is of what you're looking at, and it's this nightmare I'd have of this giant meatball that would just chase me. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, panicked, and I didn't sleep until the sun came up. And this is a pattern that I've had the majority of my life. Those dreams now have evolved to zombies, people trying to assault me. Tsunamis are the worst though. And ever since I started aggressively going to therapy and started going on medication and really, really started moving through and out of my depression and my anxiety and making it more manageable, my tsunami nightmares have almost gone away. In fact, this past year, I've started paddling into the tsunami, which is where I would like stand my ground, which is so cool. Because I would have these nightmares every night, and I wouldn't have just one nightmare. I would have one, then two, and then maybe by the third one, I would wake up, and then it's like almost sunup, and I'm like, oh, I just need a little bit more sleep, so I go back to sleep, and I have a fourth nightmare, and then I wake up, and I start my day. every day. And it would be especially bad if I'm really stressed out at work or at school. Sometimes I just wouldn't sleep, and I realized looking back, I didn't like sleeping because all I had since I was a little kid was nightmares. And now that my anxiety has gotten better, I have pretty nice dreams, and sometimes I don't even remember that I had a dream. I just wake up feeling rested, and it feels so good. I've lived my life. I'm 31 years old at the date of this recording, and I've lived 30 of these years terrorized by nightmares almost every single night. And that's part of it. That's part of being anxious. That's part of anxiety. All of these things I'm talking about. This has been one of the worst parts of having anxiety is I would have nightmare upon nightmare and upon nightmare, and then I would wake up and then live a nightmare, and then I'd go home and then I'd go to sleep and have more nightmares. And I'm so thankful that's not my reality now, because oh my god, it's the worst. I realize I've been talking for about an hour. I think we're just about at the end of this chapter. This is me as a little baby waking up terrified. This is the beginning of chapter 2. So I think it's appropriate to leave it on this note. There's one thing that anybody kind of walks away from watching today's stream, or if you're watching later this video, you're not doing yourself any favors, and you're not doing the people in your life any favors by hiding the pain and the suffering you're going through. Once I started to talk about these nightmares I was having, and the severe headaches, and the stomach aches, and the stress, and the panicky feelings I was having, I started talking to my best friends about it and my husband. They were like, you need to go to the doctor because we don't have that. And if you don't talk about it, you might not know that your normalcy may not necessarily be somebody else's normalcy. And you might actually be in the minority of having nightmares every single night, or refusing to sleep because you don't want to have nightmares. It's not a good thing. You need to talk to somebody about it and get an accurate reflection of whether that is something that is serving you or healthy for you. Because again, once I started talking about it, once I started sharing my journey, my life really started to change for the better. And yeah. So I guess I'm gonna finish on my face. To anybody that's out there watching this, I'll do magic hands. Come on. I can't do it anymore. Hold on. Okay. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. I really wanted to do it one more time. To anybody out there that's watching, you're not alone, and you're going to be okay. And I hope you're doing well. Thank you to everybody that's watching. Thank you to everyone that's shared and really been supportive of my journey. Thank you to everyone that's been curious. And I wish all of you the best, and I will see you again soon. Bye.